Hey there, it's Tanker. This here is the Nexus 9 tablet. Yes, it's made by HTC, and as you can see, I'm not in my usual place doing this video. I'm traveling right now. I'm in Portland, Oregon, and it's a little bright in here, so there's a lot of glare, but nonetheless, you can still see the screen when I pick this up. So, the Nexus 9, an interesting form factor. It's an 8.9-inch display. It's 2048 by 1536 pixels, pretty high res, but it's kind of in between the 7-inch Nexus 7 and the 10-inch Nexus 10, obviously. And in a way, it's replacing both of them. So let me walk you through some of the features here. It's running Android Lollipop, which is the latest version, and this is a 64-bit version, since the processor on here is a NVIDIA Tegra K1. It's one of the first devices running the 2.3 gigahertz K1 processor and 2 gigs of RAM. This particular unit is a Wi-Fi only device with 16 gigabyte of built-in storage, no expansion, but there's a 32 gigabyte version and a LT version as well that's going to be available. So as you can see, it's a pretty bright display. It's IPS panel, so it looks really quite nice. Lots of glare in here, as I mentioned, but it still manages to fare quite well. You see a front-facing camera here, so 1.6 megapixel with a f/2.4 lens, and of course the signature BoomSound speakers, which are very familiar to anybody having used a recent HTC device. You can see them left and right here. So this is pretty awesome. If you're listening to videos, watching videos, listening to music, you get a pretty decent audio out of these. And if you flip this over now, you got the Nexus logo right here, and that's kind of a staple of most Nexus devices. You can see the HTC logo below. And then up here is an 8 megapixel autofocus camera with an LED flash. This is an f/2.4 again. Not the greatest camera. It's not that awesome in low light, but then again, you'd expect that. It is, after all, a tablet. One of the big disappointments on this camera, there's no HDR mode for whatever reason. And yeah, I mean, it's about 430 grams, so it's about half a kilo. Not the lightest tablet in the world. The edge here all the way around is actually made of a very nice metal material, which is kind of cool. It feels really quite nice in the hand. It's, again, a little bit heavier than I like it to be, but the size is, you know, for a kind of a full-size device, it's much smaller than an Nexus 10, yet the screen isn't really that much smaller. So that's kind of the advantage, but it is significantly bigger than an Nexus 7. It's a little bigger than an iPad mini, smaller than iPad Air, but it's, you know, it's kind of in between those two. So on the side here, you'll notice there's a couple of buttons. You have what seems to be a microphone here. I'm not sure if you can see it. Microphone, you've got the power lock key and a volume rocker. Now these are really kind of hard to feel by touch, and they don't really feel that great in terms of tactile feedback. You've got a standard headphone jack up here, 3.5 millimeter, and that's really it all the way around. There's really nothing else other than the micro USB charge and data port down here, which obviously you'd expect. That's it in a nutshell in terms of the hardware to it. Now the software obviously is a big deal. Lollipop is a kind of an interesting thing. So as you can see here, the keyboard is very different. It's been kind of redone. I'm not sure how I feel about the lack of actual kind of keys. It's just the letters. It's a very flat interface, but it does feel pretty good. There's a bunch of improvements all the way around in terms of usability. So, you know, one of the new parts of Android Lollipop is Google Fit right here, which lets you track things like how many steps you've taken and stuff using the built-in sensors, which is kind of cool. This thing is super fast. Battery life is really quite good. There's a 6,700 milliamp hour battery inside this thing. So that's pretty massive. If you notice, I'm about at 3/4 battery right now. And that's, you know, after 2.5 days of use. I haven't really used it that much, like not any major heavy lifting. I haven't obviously done any formal tests, but other than the buttons that feel a bit weird and the fact that it's a little on the heavy side, it's pretty nice. There's very little bezel on left and right. A little more bezel top and bottom, but the screen looks gorgeous. You know, it's fun. I've got some movies here I can play, so you get a feel for what it looks like. I got gravity here, and again, the sound quality coming out of the BoomSound is really impressive. Now, the aspect ratio on the screen, this is not a widescreen, this is a 4:3 screen. So when you watch, obviously, a widescreen video, it's going to be letterboxed. But other than that, it's really not that big of a deal. You got the Google Now stuff on this side, right? Nothing unusual there. On this side over here, you got a bunch of other things. The UI is an evolution of what we had on 4.4, but it's, I think, much improved. It looks much nicer. A lot more lighter elements. For example, if I go into the settings here, you know, you can clearly see that everything is white now, which is kind of interesting. Also, the multitasking is done very differently. So now I've started a bunch of apps, and you can see them, how they stack up in their UI. So, you know, you can dismiss them this way. It's kind of a card-based interface, much better. But again, you know, this is not a review of Lollipop. This is really a review of the Nexus 9. So, should you buy this? I don't know. I think the iPads are still better tablets, frankly, other than the stereo speakers in front, which are really kick-ass. And because there's such a better app ecosystem on iOS in terms of tablet apps, you know, DJ apps and music composition and playback apps. But if you're just very heavily invested in Google services, and or you just want a solid web browsing experience, a solid Gmail experience, you know, basically your internet cloud connected experience, this is a fantastic device for that, for sure. This is $399, and that's for the 16 gigabyte model with no LTE, just Wi-Fi. So, I mean, it's not bad, but it's not great pricing either. I mean, the iPad Air can be had now pretty cheap, and obviously the iPad Mini is about the same price with the fingerprint reader now. It's definitely the best Android tablet I've ever used by quite far. I've got a Nexus 7 and a Nexus 10, and I've played with a bunch of Galaxy tabs. And really, this is a great form factor, pretty damn great all the way around. Again, you know, the camera could be better, but I don't expect too much from a tablet camera. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. My review of the Nexus 9, the latest and greatest Android Nexus tablet, now with Lollipop Android 5.0. So in terms of size comparison, this here is the OnePlus One. It's a very large Android phone, as you can see here. So that gives you an idea. I mean, it's not a 6-inch phone. It's not the size of the Nexus 6, but it's close. Has quite a bit of bezel top and bottom. So it gives you an idea what the Nexus 9 is looking like in terms of size. And then, you know, if you want, I can also pull out a Nexus 5, last year's flagship Android device. As you can see, this is where you can kind of tell that the Nexus 9 is, you know, is quite a bit bigger than the Nexus 7, but nonetheless not gigantic. So I hope that gives you some size comparison. Alright, if you like this review, please give it a thumbs up, and stay tuned for more reviews from me. I've got a whole bunch lined up for you guys. Yeah, subscribe to my channel and look me up on Twitter. I'm Tankgirl, TNKGRL, and my blog is tankgirl.com, tnkgrl.com. Cheers!